Okay, guys, we thought that we were going to be able to give you some advance notice on this, but some miscommunication with me and Matthew, or do you
My
go by
fault.
Matt? By him, but we're going to record this for you so everybody gets to see it, even if you're not in VIP. But obviously, this is a great reason to be able to bring you people like this in VIP on a more regular basis. So I'm just going to turn it over to him because he's been doing this a long time and he can tell you better about himself than I can. So, first off, Matthew or Matt, what do you prefer?
Either one is fine. Pretty much everybody calls me Matt, so
Matt.
there's
Okay,
there's no
fair
issue
enough.
there.
I
The
like to
only
be as
person who does
informal
not
as
do that is
possible. So, yeah.
yeah,
But
there's a schooler named Matthew Thompson, and he
yes.
refuses to call me Matt. So he's the only one I've met that
Yeah, I
yeah.
gotcha. So, welcome, Matt. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And just talk about because a lot of people are new to not only school, but they're new to online communities.
Mm.
And your unique position in this marketplace is the fact that you have been doing online communities, and that's a great place for us to start. Talk about your background with online communities.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, even amidst my own confusion. So apologies to you guys for not having the advance notice here, but it's a pleasure to be here. And yes, my background really does come from the community lens. I got my start in communities way back when. My first, kind of genuine community was around a tabletop role playing game. You guys might have heard of a game called a Dungeons and Dragons, but there was an even nerdier version of that called the Call of Cthulhu, and it was like a horror version of Dungeons and Dragons. And that was really what taught me the power of community as a very young child. My mom had to drive me to my friend's house, and we kind of grew this expansive group of people in Houston, all people who had to have their parents drive them to other people's houses, enjoying scary movies and scary games and things like this. And so that was really kind of my introduction to it. But since then, I have been kind of in the community space. And one of my biggest, I guess, claims to fame, if you could call it that, was I started a gaming community around a video game called Overwatch. And I grew that from zero to its first 150,000 members. That was about 11 years ago. And that kind of got me into my first taste of, how do you grow something from scratch? How do you actually create a team of moderators? How do you handle the influx of people? Growth, marketing, right? We didn't monetize it because it was on Reddit, but that really gave me my first taste of the power of communities. And then through some crazy happenstance of different events, I ended up joining a company that had a few dozen people at the time called Monday.com. It wasn't named that originally, but we eventually renamed to Monday. And after I left, we were almost 4,000 people, I think just shy of 4,000 people across the world. Took the company public, and right about 3 months before I left, we hit $1 billion of annual revenue. And throughout that process, I was asked by the CEOs to kind of pick and choose my role after about being there for 5 years. I spent almost 10 there, and they said, "What do you want to do? Like, you've done great things. You built up multiple teams, started up from scratch. I moved to New York by myself, and opened up a bunch of offices all over the country there. Hired basically our first 400 people. They said, "What do you want to do now that you've kind of accomplished the goals that we had originally set out?" And I said, "Our community is non-existent. We don't have any support structure for this. I want to build our community." And so that ended up with, obviously, it was not just me. I had an amazing team that supported me. At one point, we were around 87 people or so. But we created a conference called Elevate by Monday. And that eventually became 4 times a year, all in person, with some online components. And annually, we probably had about 5,000 people go through our doors, with about 50 to 250,000 people attend the live and recorded versions online as well. So community is kind of in my blood, and it's really been a lot of what I do. And So now, my lovely wife and I were building a company called Proveworth, which is all about, as a community builder, how do you kind of collect and share that social proof so that you can get more members that pay you more. And that came from a lot of hard won lessons at Monday. But I could shut up at that point. That's the longer version of the short story, I suppose, of kind of where I've come from and how I got into this game.
So obviously, you have been on school for a while, and because that wasn't your first dipping your toe, if you will, into online communities, you've probably seen tons of these things pop up and then disappear and things like that. What is it about school that A, intrigued you, and B, you thought that this was a place that really had some legs?
I feel not only is school going to be kind of the future of community building online, but it's by far the best positioned with the best team. Uh, and I mean, I even almost joined the team at one point because I love the platform so much, and I really believe in what they're doing. I would say what's special about school is, I mean, it's really the people behind it. They're human, they're not perfect, but I had actually been following the CEO, Sam Ovens, kind of on and off for a majority of my career. Uh, I've got a guy now that I can call kind of a closer acquaintance, but he had this podcast. His name was Andrew Warner. It still is Andrew Warner, and he had this podcast called Mixergy. But he did this interview almost 20 years ago with this guy named Sam Ovens, and I remember listening to that interview probably like a week or 2 after it came out, and I was very impressed. This this young gentleman created this company called Snap Inspect, and he built this app basically from nothing with no technical experience, and he went at it with a problem first mindset. Like, what's the problem that I want to solve? He worked very closely with a group that was kind of teaching this philosophy, but ever since then I paid attention to kind of his career. I saw him go to consulting.com and kind of do all these things. So I started on school actually having no idea that Sam was a part of it. Even though I'd loosely followed him, and I joined a productivity kind of coaching program. I was still working at Monday at the time, but I knew that I just love I loved the knowledge and experience of what technology can do for productivity. And given that I was running communities and building all this stuff up for Monday, I was like, well, let me invest in myself to make sure that I'm the kind of guy who likes to be like, I want to know for sure that I'm doing the right thing here. And so I hopped onto this platform that he was using called School, and this was a premium 5-figure coaching program, and I was like, wow, this is pretty basic, like I was like, this is what you're using, and almost immediately I was like, oh wow, that's really stupid of me to say that because it was easy to use,
Mm.
it was intuitive. I noticed that I was able to engage easier, which also all of my other friends and people that were in the program were able to engage easier. And I also noticed that it had a pretty serious understanding of the power of network effects, which not a lot of people talk about, but that is a huge boon when it comes to community building. There's three big things that communities need. They need distribution, they need transformation, and they need retention. And so I saw kind of very quickly that there were elements of those three things. And so I immediately paid for a school community that was just me. I didn't actually create my first community on school for probably a year, but I paid the $99 because I noticed that there was a group that you could be a part of, if even if you were working with school or without school. It was called School Community at the time. Um, but I signed up because I just wanted to play with the tool and see how we could use it. And we didn't end up using it at Monday because we had our own self built solution. But I was always of the belief that this was going to be the most powerful platform and the best way to do it. And I told the team actually at one point, I was like, "Hey, I think we're wrong for building our own thing when this thing is much better structured, and it's got a lot of the power in it." So yeah, I could go on and on and on, but if I were to have to boil it down, I would say that the reason why school is successful and I think will be the number one is it's got the best team. So I wouldn't ever want to compete against Sam and Alex and Kirby and Evelyn and all these amazing people who work with school. And then they've got the best product, which really is like the most features for the least, especially with now with the $9 plan. It's like unreasonable. Like, why would you not have a school community? And one of the hardest things about having a community is not actually delivering transformation or retaining people. Those are hard in different ways, but the distribution is really, really tough. And when you actually nail your distribution, the tailwind that school can give you through things like public communities, through things like the natural distribution of school discovery, you don't ever want to rely solely on those things, but all three of those very important assets that you need to build a good community, school just makes those so much simpler, if not outright solves them. So, long story short, I'm a big fan.
Yeah. And it sounds like you have been here just about as long as I have, because for those of you who are new, there was a time the only option you had was what they now call the Pro plan, which is $99 a month. And back in the day, before we had freemium, it was you need two communities, right? You need a free community to introduce people to you, especially if you don't have a huge audience. And then you need a paid community. So, right out of the gate, and I know for somebody who's been in business as long as you have, this doesn't seem like very much, and it didn't even to me at the time that you could run a business for $200 a month, basically.
Which is
But
crazy.
yeah, you needed two communities, right? You had to have two because you had to ascend people. And now with this freemium thing, it's like it's reached that max, that maximum density, if you will, where they, like you said, they can now deliver the best for the most for the least. And that is when you build this swell of public endorsement, if you will, that most of their growth now comes from the people that have communities and are just talking about how cool, school is.
Yep,
And
100%.
that's the best part, in my mind, about this whole thing. So, you were here for about a year, and you didn't even really go all in. Um, the reason I might mainly wanted to have you on was to talk about Prove Worth, what problem you saw that it solved for people, and how you think this fits into the future of the AI and AI search puzzle.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a
So
mouthful, but
yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is. So, proof worth, the idea for it came long, long ago, but it 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 all came to fruition really in the past year, basically. And I've I learned some really valuable lessons over at Monday, which I'll distill quickly, which was when we basically made an entire department around our social proof because there are so many different aspects at play when somebody gives you a review, when you gather a testimonial and what that can do for you. So, first off, when somebody leaves you a review, right? It could be negative, it could be positive, but it's always an asset for you, which didn't seem to, it's not as clear originally or at first, but I could give you an example. So we had so many different instances, but I'll call this guy James. It's not his real name, but I'll tell you the story of James, who back when I was very new blood, fresh over at Monday, he tried his best to leave as many one-star reviews as many places as possible, including calling the helpline, which at the time was literally just me, and being very vocal about his issues. And I heard him out, and we ended up talking, and I had to kind of defend myself a little bit, and I was just like, "Look, man, I am here to help and support you, but if you're gonna talk to me this way, like, we're not gonna keep talking. But if you want help and you wanna try to fix these things, I have some ideas for you if you wanna be professional and have this discussion." And that really disarmed him, and he was like, "Look, man, I'm going through a hard time, like, all this I'm just really frustrated." I was like, "Okay, now we're getting somewhere." And you kind of go through this experience, we talked through it, and he eventually became one of the most stand up, proud supporters, changed all his reviews, became a huge advocate for us, helped us get a lot of business. And that was really the first of just so many examples of every time somebody interacts with your product, even if it is something that is largely negative, I'll air quote for the people who are listening, and for the people who are watching. But it's such an opportunity, and the same thing with a testimonial. Testimonials are different from reviews. I'll define those things. A review is basically where you're getting somebody to kind of share their feedback in a third party place, whereas a testimonial is something that you're gathering and collecting yourself. It's probably going to be pretty positive, and you're also going to share it with the world. They both have their place, but when you have a review, that becomes an opportunity for a future testimonial, even if it's something that is like super, super negative. And what we noticed happen at Monday was these people that gave us reviews, whether they were, positive or negative, I don't say good or bad for a reason, but we noticed that these people became further opportunities for championing to upgrade their products when we did right by them. They not only upgraded, but they renewed more frequently. Not only did those wonderful things happen, but they also gave us marketing material when they did, create this experience for us, whether that was a review or eventually became a testimonial. And on top of that, it was really good for the team because we were growing and hiring so many people so quickly as a hyper growth startup that a lot of people just needed concrete case studies and examples to learn about the product. So we were not only marketing to our potential prospects, but also to our new employees of like, this is what's good, this is what we're doing, this is what's powerful. These are stories that you could tell because that's how humans connect. We don't buy things generally, unless it's like a keyboard or something, right? But even then, we want to know the story, we want to know what's good, we want to understand these different kinds of things. So all that really boils up to the fact that every opportunity that you can gather here is one for it's an immense opportunity for you to be able to capitalize on it and do so much good for your customers and for your business. And in the community realm, this doesn't really exist. So there isn't a clear path for something like you might think of like a Yelp or a Trust Pilot. um, those are more geared towards anything and everything. And when you buy a community, you don't just kind of like log in and make it work. I have this very strong belief that kind of goes a little counterintuitive to a lot of what people talk about, where communities are inconvenient things. They're naturally inconvenient. If you buy a keyboard, you get it, you plug it in, you're good to go. If you purchase a premium community or the services of a community builder or you interact with this other person, there's a lot more layers and nuance. There's relationships that you have to think of. You have to get ongoing engagement, right? That transformation that I talked about has to happen. You have to retain them. Otherwise, it's just a course. Like, why would they keep coming back? Um, you have to create this ecosystem and this infrastructure. So it's not as straightforward as just like, yeah, it's worth it. You have to kind of continually prove that you are worth it, hence the name of the product. And what I've found throughout the years of experience and now building this and working with so many awesome people is that when you have a clear system to collect these reviews on autopilot, not only do you increase the conversion rate, you increase the ability for you to work with those people so they might upgrade more. And since they're distilling their value, ideally, or they're sharing their frustrations, which you could still learn from, they tend to stick around or create more opportunities for you over longer periods. So I just really like games where it's everybody has the opportunity to win multiple times. And Proofworth for me is that business model where uh it it can for free, right? There are premium options to Proofworth, but for free, you can integrate Proofworth into the system of your community and take a lot of that headache and legwork that you would originally have to do by remembering to ask people and remember to do these things. Whereas you could just use the Proofworth system to fully automate this and just create more opportunities for you completely on autopilot. So
And I
hopefully that answers your question.
no, it does, and Uh, so, and this is a good lesson for people because a lot of people go into communities thinking they know what the problem is. And then they get in there and they find out, oh, I've created all these modules and I've created all these classrooms. And then you find out that's not what people's problem was. That's
No.
not what they're dealing with. And so I think what you did is you came in and you listened to different community owners and said, I'm going to create a tool that solves a problem for community owners that helps them promote what they do. The thing that I thought that, or I think that you're really dialing in on though, is the AI search thing. Because when you shared that stat in either another interview or I saw you in another community, share the stat about the reliability of AI search versus what we all consider to be the gold standard for search, which is Google, and
Yeah,
what you
absolutely.
found or what other people have found and you've shared their studies.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a student of the game, and I've been in the SEO game for a while. I'll tell you a quick story just to help solidify that. But um, the real one of the real first forays into business for me, I was still in college at the time, and I was building a website, and I somehow got this website to the top of Google for buy swing sets online. And I woke up one day with money in my PayPal account and a voicemail from somebody in Cancun who bought like a very expensive swing set and was getting it. They wanted to get it shipped, and they were like, I know I got to pay like $1,400 in shipping, but it's my kid's birthday or whatever. And I'd never met this person before, right? Never done any of these things before. So ever since that moment, which was, probably 20 years ago at this point, I've learned and appreciated the power of discoverability and what Google and these other tools can do for you. That's changing now. Everything now is completely different. Whereas before, you would go and search something on Google and you get 10 blue links, and people would click on those and find you. We're living in an age now, that a lot of the people in the industry are calling zero click, right? And you may have experienced this before. You go to something like ChatGPT or maybe even Google itself, and you ask a question, and what do you get? You get an AI overview, then you get a bunch of sponsored results, then you get a bunch of YouTube videos, and then you start to get rank 1 on Google. I've seen instances where again, I'll use air quotes here, where the rank 1 most coveted spot that people I was in the SEO industry also for a while. I had people who were paying $50,000 a month to our firm specifically to try to get rank 1 on Google, right? So it's very, very lucrative. And now rank 1 is sometimes at the bottom of the page. It's not even visible to somebody who lands on it. So in this era as a community where discoverability is a very key issue, you need to be able to have as many, what I'll call shots on goal that you could possibly have. And school does a great job of setting this up for you at a very kind of basic level. And that's not a knock against school. That's just how it's set up, especially if you have a private community. If you have a public community, there's more shots on goal there. That's maybe a separate conversation. But most people have private communities because a lot of their value is going to be the interaction, the environment, the safety, the security. And depending on the topic, maybe there's some sensitive things that are being discussed that people don't want to have public. So it makes sense to them to have a private community. All you really have when you have a private community is your social media, which that's hard work to maintain, but it's a good idea to do so. And your about page, which is basically just like your marketing landing page. And you and I both know those are 1,000 characters. So you don't exactly get a ton of real estate to be able to tell the world what you're about and what you're doing. So what you should technically be doing is making lots of different websites, making lots of different social media, and kind of creating these assets for yourself that help you get shots on goal so the AI, Google search, and all these things can see you. You're running a business. Other community people, they're running businesses too. They don't have time for all that stuff. So what you could do instead is spend about 3 minutes and set up a proof worth profile or something else. And again, depends on the level of work that you want to put in. And what this does is it's actually built from scratch and structured in a way that helps Google, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Gemini, all of these tools. It helps you get discovered by them because it helps them read what you are about. And the structure of everything is designed in a way that it's what the AI is trained on. And at a very basic level, the way the AI was trained and created is you give a question to the AI, and the AI goes through tens, if not hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of answers until it gets rewarded for the right one. And you'll see on a Proofworth page, you'll see questions that you were asked, and it gives those answers. So it's literally built from the ground up to try to structure and make these things happen so that your community will get discovered by AI and be shown in these AI overviews. And it will be discovered by Google and shared through these things. And then it will also compound. So if you have YouTube videos, if you have social media, if you have other things, that's just another opportunity for you to have a shot on goal. Why is this important? Well, you mentioned one of these studies. Um, Being a student of the game, there's a lot of these people who, again, this is their entire livelihood. They've been doing it for 20 years or more, and all they care about is ranking at the top. And what they found is that when you actually go and get discovered by AI, which generally is going to be less because AI tries to answer those trivial questions. But when you have reasons for people to go and follow through, to go to your website, to go to your community, they convert sometimes 3 to 5 times higher when they do so. So they convert at a much higher rate, even though you're getting less traffic. So, yes, that vanity metric of traffic is actually not that important anymore because if you're converting higher, if you get 100 visitors and you convert at 1% versus if you get 50 visitors and you convert at 4% or 5%, right? Your numbers are going to add up more exponentially. But then, not only that, they end up being worth 4.4 times more per sold person when they actually come to it. This was done by Ahrefs, another company called SEMrush. You could look those guys up. Those are longstanding people in the industry. But ultimately, what they found is that while things have deteriorated in terms of volume, the conversions rates, the actual lifetime value of these clients, they're significantly higher. Why? Right? Well, because these people are significantly farther down the funnel. It's like, somebody asking, "Where do I buy my iPhone from today in, 77581 zip code?" versus somebody Googling, "What is an iPhone?" Those are 2 people of very different stages of the funnel, right? And if I sell iPhones, I really want that first person. I wanna help the second person, but I really want that first person to know who I am. And so, the community game right now, uh, a lot of people have a lot of value to give, but they're not getting discovered. They're not able to commit the time to be able to do these things. They're not able to do the effort in the right ways. That's really a challenge. A lot of people will think probably, hey, if I could just get discovered by more people, then I would be, building a wonderful community and a great business. And so prove worth, but in general, all of the shots on goal you take online are very important so that you can have an engine of discoverability. This is why people like things like YouTube. Why? Because you have to promote your YouTube channel certainly when you get started off, but after you get that compounding effect of getting people that find your stuff valuable and they go, you'll be able to post a video and you'll have imagine you post a video and you get 10 super highly qualified people that you've never met before that see it, maybe 100, maybe 1,000, maybe 10,000, right? That's the power of something like YouTube. Whereas, you know, Google generally, if you go and publish a website out there, that website isn't going to have as much authority about it. And so I like to talk about the rising tide raising all ships, which I'll end with because as you can see, I love to have long answers to short questions. Um, a rising tide really does raise all ships, especially when it comes to Google, ChatGPT, getting a topical authority. Because getting a link from an established website back to the thing that you're talking about actually helps both in what Google talks about. And you might wonder, well, how do I know that information? This is a whole separate thing. But, there was an antitrust, lawsuit that happened very recently where Google was forced by the government to actually talk about how their ranking algorithm and metrics work. And when you go and read between the lines of what they're saying there, because they, by law, had to answer some very specific questions, and they tried to be as vague as they could, but they got pressed on it. Um, Authority And the way that people interact with your website are the two most important things. So when you get cited and shared by people with authority, and then when people go and interact with your web page on Google Chrome specifically, but all of them matter, and Google sees, AI sees, Gemini sees, they see that people actually like what's going on. They don't come backwards in the funnel and try to find new resources. That makes you and the source that recommended you increase in discoverability. And so in theory, that's another game that we could play where I, as the commandeer of Proofworth, and you as the community owner can both help each other win because we get discovered more together than we would separately or alone.
It's funny when you say that because I I jumped on the I like to when people are like, What do you do?" I was like, "Well, basically, I'm an evangelist for school because I came on in March of 23, and I say this all the time, so anybody who's may listen to this, is not gonna be hearing this for the first time. I saw this as Microsoft 82. I really thought it had that type of potential and power. Microsoft 82 and Facebook 2008. I really did, just because, um, the what it all the tools that it was combining, right, into one, and especially and
Mhm.
this was even at the $99 down. I mean, now that it's 9, I mean, my god, we've seen the
Unreal.
explosion. And that
Yeah.
was a year before Hormozy came on board. So when you have a guy that has, 10 or 15 million social media followers across all platforms now, business and non-business, and every third video he's talking about this school thing, I mean, like you said, rising tide lifts all boats. It just creates this huge uptick in social awareness and public awareness about what school is. And then, when you're like, oh, now it's $9. And so it's like, I don't know, it's just it's waterfall. And you can see what happened when he released his latest book and he launched it.
Yeah, it was
We went
crazy.
from 51,000 communities the day before his public launch to like 185,000 literally in 72 hours. And that was his power as a marketer, and the
Mhm.
fact that the other thing, and I've dove so deep into this, so I know, but the power because I don't know about you, but I'm a huge Hormozy fan, and
Oh, very much, yeah.
in so many ways, he's the reason that I believe so strongly in this. But when he only will disclose the name of one company that he has publicly or that he has invested in to try to grow with acquisition.com. This is his flagship. This is
Yep.
his baby. This is what he wants to succeed more than anything else. And he said in a recent podcast, he's like, "We have the projections. We know where it's headed, and in 18 to 24 months, this will be a $4 to $6 billion company."
Yep.
And we're just scratching the surface of a billion now. And I think about the interconnectivity of people all over the world, and on all of these different things. But having a place where people can get real proof from people, because marketing's one thing, but even he says proof is a whole different animal. Because if you see somebody saying, "Oh, I had this experience," or at least if they can, or if the person who's running the community or the business can have all these people say, "I love this, I love this, I got this result, I got this result," I can't recommend this person highly enough. That's way better than you running an ad saying how great you are or how great your community is. And that's what I love about what you're creating is you're making this experience. Um, and I think even though you're doing it for online communities, you're targeting school owners because currently we don't have a lot of that. And like you said, when they get that searchability and people can look and it's like, oh, this person's got 5 stars. And then here's the other thing, if you're new to community building, which I was back in 24 when I started my community, you don't really know if what you're providing is all that valuable. But I'm
Mhm.
telling you, man, you get a couple of 5 stars, it's like, "Oh, okay, I actually do have something of value to provide to people." And the more you get that, you're like, "Okay, this type of person left this type of review. This is my person." and when you
Exactly.
can offer that value to people and they can publicly declare that value to other people, it's just, it's better than, I know it sounds ridiculous kind of, but it's actually it's a better feeling than hearing the cha-ching on school, when you get that review and they're like, I'm so glad I joined this community and I got this out of it. And it's so what I wanted to kind of switch gears to now, if you don't mind. I don't know if you're in a because we didn't rehearse any of
No, we're
this.
good. You're good.
Um, how about we give Proofworth a test drive on your computer and you take us through a little bit of a demo? Do
Yeah, of
let me.
course. Be more than happy to.
All right,
I'm gonna open it
so
up
I
here
think
and
I
just
need to give you screen sharing authority, I believe. Allow screen sharing. There we go. All
yeah.
right.
So I will share my screen right now, and you tell me if you could see it.
Yes, I do. Yep, we're good.
Awesome. Yeah, you made so many great points, and I think one of the I was fortunate enough actually to have the opportunity. I didn't win the school games, but I got invited to go, and so I got to go and hang out with Sam and Alex and the team. And I it's funny. Hormozy is actually a very warm and kind person, which I didn't have that impression from his videos. But then I found out that he really dislikes making content. He's just such a powerhouse that he can just brute force his way through practically anything, which is very impressive. But he's a big proponent of social proof and all of these things, and so getting a chance to kind of talk to him and see where school's going and what's happening here. Um, you mentioned a key point that he touches on over and over again, which is that so much of this game that you play when trying to grow any kind of business, but especially a community, is going through and actually having validation that you are bringing value to the world, which is such a trivial thing to think about, but such a very difficult thing to actually go through and make work. And so, I've got I love talking about my friend Henry here, but I think the best way to show the value of Proofworth is to talk about, and we're looking at an admin view, so it's going to look a little bit different than if you were seeing the page on its own here. But one of the things that I think is really special is that you tend to see where people will get really emotional as the reviewer, but also as the reviewed. I've had so many people tell me that they've cried when they've read the reviews that they've received. Um, One of them, unfortunately, was because it was a very tough review. But sometimes you usually get the good ones, and but it's still valuable feedback either way, as we talked about. Um, but you see here what Henry's talking about, right? Where he's like, this means a lot to me that you have a whole community there to help you. Henry's he's a bread baker. He really believes in this, and really the infrastructure and setup of Proofworth is entirely around making sure that there's kind of a third party trustworthy resource where you can display your social proof in a way that everybody can read and be captured, but also really help the right people. There's a keyword there. Um, Realize that this is the space for them. So when you come to a ProveWorth profile, especially if you're just coming here kind of like from a Google search or something else, is that you'll see the all the name nomenclature and everything here, but that communities can't offer incentives to rank themselves. They can't offer incentives to remove or hide reviews. As somebody who's running through this, the biggest asset value that I have that I need to maintain control over is that people have to trust the information that they're getting here. And so this is something that I people tell me all the time, well, what if School or Circle or Mighty Networks or Luma or any of these other platforms start making reviews? And I tell them I hope they do. I really hope they do. Because what ends up happening over time, and this is the battle that I'm signed up to fight, is that let's say we got Whitney right here talking about the best group to learn the art of sourdough bread baking, which is a simply fantastic title for Google. I didn't tell them to do that. She did that all on her own. you wanna be able to see that there are real human beings that are going through real experiences and sharing real feedback. And also awesome photos, like bread baking in general, you'll see there are some people here that are just sharing, like,
Wow.
ridiculous yeah, yeah, right? It's such a visual thing to be able to share,
Holy
the
mackerel.
results. Yeah, I see he's getting reviews so regularly, I'm like, "Man,
Yeah.
I gotta I gotta start bread baking." But that's the whole
So
point. Oh, go
I
ahead.
wanted to I'm sorry, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but you hit on a part that really struck a chord with me. If I don't know, can you find my community and maybe you can share this because I have talked about this in my community, but obviously this is gonna get out there on YouTube. Yeah, creator cash flow circle.
The
Hopefully
K,
I'll pop
right?
right
Yeah.
there we go. So I don't have many reviews, but the one that I do that really struck me is Danny's, because you were talking about reviews that make you cry.
Yep.
Um, and I think Danny did one. Maybe she didn't do it here. Or did she? Crap, I
I
don't think
see I see
you know what? She
Kathleen, Raymond, and Kior.
yeah, she didn't I'm sorry, she didn't do it there, but she did it. She's
A
left
review's
many
a review.
yeah, I know, exactly. She actually she left that now I remember, but she left a comment inside of my school community. And she said, "This is a place where I don't have to try to fit in, but I actually belong." And that almost made me cry, because it was like,
Yeah,
that's what I have been trying to create for people, you know? And, and when you get that type of stuff, it's like you just feel like you're on the right track, and it just
totally.
kind of encourages you to fight through, the online community game and trying to figure out how am I going to monetize this and how am I this and that and but it's those things are like what a brand new person would look at and they're like, oh, okay, that there's some value here and, I should really check this place out. And I
Yep,
love what you've been able to do with creating something, like this. Now, how and I know this is going maybe back a little bit remedial, but so few of our people in our community actually have a Prove Worth account. And I'm sure you could probably do this with your eyes closed and, in your sleep, but show people how easy it is to create one. I don't know if you've got a dummy account or something like that where you can show
yeah,
us.
yeah, absolutely. Let me maybe reshare my screen,
Yeah.
and well, actually, I could go through here and just
Okay.
show very quickly, um, right here. So what you're seeing is there's gonna be a variety of places where you can go on the website. And you're going to see things like claim your page, right? Which takes you to your dashboard. And then you can go right in here and click claim community and add a new community. Once you do this, you're able to go inside and it's just basically like 5 or 6 pieces of information. And you're able to go in and let me just go to one of my test kind of communities here. You'll be greeted with this kind of empty page with all these different things that you could potentially fill out. And so the simplest path that you could have here is let's go to school. Let's go to this community here. You go and you copy and paste. So you've signed up, right? It's taken you about 2 or 3 minutes. You copy and paste your about text, and then you click generate profile with AI. And you don't even have to think about it. You just click generate, and it will at least give you, I would say, probably 70 to 80% of a baseline of a completed profile. And you go through here, and it will automatically fill out all this other stuff that you can then choose to edit or delete. You could go section by section and add these things in, right? But for school community owners specifically, and people who have marketing landing pages, the goal is I wanted to remove as much friction as possible for setting up a profile. And so when you sign up, you'll be greeted with a big green banner and it'll say create your community. And then there's going to be this generate profile with AI. You could also just hand write it out if you want. The number one piece of feedback I got was it was so much easier than they thought. But when you're staring at a big blank page, it can be a little intimidating. And so it's a lot easier, I've found, maybe you also have found as well, to go in and tweak things versus create something completely from scratch. So
Mhm.
this could give you kind of a good foundation from which to build upon. But you can also go in and upload images from your about page as well to go in and easily add those things. And then you'll want to go in and add some tags, which these get reviewed manually. You can go in and create them so that there's not like profanity or anything. But as the site is, we've only got about 300 communities right now, which will grow and expand. And that's 300 is still a lot, like for
Mhm.
as crazy of a results that we've been seeing right now. But these are things that you will want to be found for, both when people search the directory. So that's hopefully you can see my screen here.
Yep.
These are filters here where you could see what's on the directory, but also tags for it's actually categorized the schema or basically the backend foundation of ProveWorth. Those are also things that will helpfully get you discovered. There's like keywords basically that you want to
That's
try to
what
find.
that was gonna be my next question is when you were using, like, the about page and throwing it into your AI, if it's really trying to hone in on those keywords that people would be searching for, so if they go into a Chat GPT or something like that, all of a sudden your profile comes up on ProveWorth or something like that, so
Exactly, and we start to see this. Now, the way that the current, this by the way is it's gonna look very, very similar, but it might look a little bit different when the folks who are watching this, go through because I haven't even announced this yet, but, first inside information here for you and your community. I have been fortunate enough to have learned a lot from some consultants that I've hired and some work that I've done on the discoverability aspect of what's happening here. And so, a bit long story short, I realized I needed to completely rebuild the website.
mm,
This will all be looking a little bit different. It'll function very similarly. But I've completely been working on and redoing the website over the past month, and my theory is that as there will probably be a little bit of a hit for people to get some understanding. The database transfer. There's a few things that have to happen there. But I've tested it on some other website entities that I've worked on, and my theory is that this will help the discoverability aspect, which is I think a key value. Right now, it's still very functional as a software to help you kind of gather and get those reviews and feedback, right? So that people can submit this for you. But the new version's going to be screaming in terms of its capabilities, and it's going to give me features where you'll be able to, like, for example, one of the features I'm working on that's hopefully going to come out over the summer, you'll be able to send a link to somebody on their phone, and it will prompt them to record their testimonial for you on their iPhone or Android with the prompt on screen of exactly the question that you want them to answer. So you could get a guided testimonial, and when you click stop record, it will edit all the clips together for you and send you the video and upload it to ProveWorth. That's one thing as an example. Another would be I'm contemplating throwing in a chat button here so that
mm,
people can talk to your reviews and your community can sell itself with the knowledge and insight that you have based off of what's on the page and the reviews. So
wow.
all those other things that I've kind of been dreaming of for making this kind of like like my kind of dream here is that Sam and the folks from Circle and Money Networks, they're like they have to be forced to integrate because there's just too much trust signal on ProveWorth. They can't possibly ignore it. So that's
I
the big
love
vision
that.
for ProveWorth. But ultimately, I want to make sure that as a two-sided marketplace, that I serve everybody to the best of our ability, and I really think that's going to be for the user, helping them make informed decisions, so they know where to spend their time because community is naturally inconvenient, and as the builders, right, you guys and your community as well, that you can have your community be selling 24/7 while you sleep,
Mhm.
and getting you the best possible members, and also insights from the data that you collect, right? So that's another example here is one of the features that I think is going to be very important for people is that they can come in and they could go and have an AI agent kind of constantly reviewing their page so that you learn what are the pain points that your audience is suffering from. right?
Oh, wow.
What are the transformations that they are actually achieving, right? What are they if they're talking about the things that they were objecting, what are they what are you selling them on better than anybody else, right? And your competitive landscape. What's the actual language that they're all seeming to use,
Mm,
right? So the whole point of this, and this is in alpha right now, so we're still going through and testing a lot of this stuff. But really, the whole point of Prove Worth is that you will just even by creating this is a premium feature, because it's we have to pay for the tokens and whatnot. But even if you just have a free community, or a free profile on Proveworth rather, that you will have kind of an arsenal of tools at your disposal, that will help you get the best members, for the least price, with the most exposure that you can get, right? That's the Proveworth version of the of the testimonial there.
I love that.
But
So,
yeah, yeah.
ranking wise, so everything is based on rankings, obviously. Schools Discovery has its own way that it ranks things. How does a community get higher in the search rankings on Proofworth?
Absolutely. So there are a few different formulas that go into the back end. And without giving away too much of the sauce, because for you're very familiar with it, I'm sure, and so I'm sure members of your community are as well. Right now, as we're getting started, it's the algorithms, that I'm using in the background kind of make it very clear that, like, if you have a lot of really good reviews, you're going to rank up at the top. But as we get more and more communities, there's going to be, more clear distinction there. And there are three different formulas that we are using, mathematical algorithms that also use AI sentiment. So right now, this is, being handcrafted. So there's going to be a human touch to it as well as an AI touch, but it's going to be factoring in a lot of the sentiment behind the scenes. So right now, when somebody goes and reviews a community on Proveworth, for example, we can look at Dess's community. There's all sorts of information that people are sharing, and the insights that are going to be happening here with the new version of the website as well, is that there are going to be other opportunities for people to rate your community. So there's going to be a general all-purpose score, but there's also going to be scores that people can say, how much do you trust this community owner? How much do you trust the space and the safety of this space? How do you feel about interacting with your other members? How active is it? So there's actually going to be, when somebody submits a review, an optional 10-point survey that they will then receive. That those are also going to be factored in to those three different algorithms. So maybe a community with, let's say, a 4.2 that has 53 ratings is going to be ranked higher than a community with a 4.7 and 50 rankings. And people are, I'm sure, going to be asking about that. Um, but we've basically got all sorts of things here on our trust page. We're going to be detailing a little bit of it without trying to give away the game so that people don't try to manipulate the discovery algorithm. Um, so the shorter answer to a great question is going to be learning from the experts while leaning into the age that we are in now, of giving AI powered insights with, a complete human in the loop, and an overview, so that people aren't gaming the system with what's there. So I hope, while not being specific, that gives you a bit of an insight into kind of the thought process
Sure.
of what's going on there.
I really liked what you said about helping people leave reviews, especially video reviews, because obviously you know, AI could easily, obviously, create a in this day and age, obviously, somebody was like, "Okay, make AI give me the best possible rating or whatever." But with the video, and I think the reason more people don't leave video review, well, number 1, they don't like to be on camera, but number 2, they don't know what to say and how to frame, especially if you're like, "Hey, do this in 60 seconds." They don't know how to do it. But if you're giving them the prompts, like, "This is where I was, this is where I am now, this is this is the transformation I experienced." I think it encourages people to, better leave reviews. So that leads me to 2 things, which is how do you, or actually, that leads me primarily to one thing. How do you best integrate this into your own community so it becomes more of a, oh, okay, you've reached this point in your journey. This is the time to leave a review, and this is how you do it.
Absolutely. So, I guess a quick plug, for the people, whether you're on the free or the premium or anything here, is I've seen some really, really great strategies and I've collected them all for free. So that you can also employ those, whenever you create your profile and leverage it. And Hormozy talks about this all the time. But one of the most advantageous, and maybe I can, yeah, there we go,
Yeah,
get a
zoom
little bit,
that in a little bit.
little larger there. Um, One of the most advantageous things that you could do with your social proof, and this is the game that you're playing, right? You talked
Mhm.
about, I think you said Danielle who left a review, which was
Danny, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Danny. Sorry, forgive me for that.
That's
But
okay.
Danny left this review that was so powerful and so evocative. And now you have also, happily, but you have more work on your plate, because if that just sits inside of your community and nobody knows about it, it might help some of the existing members, but it's not gonna also give you other points of leverage, right? Where you can get that out there. And if you share a screenshot, great. That's awesome. But that screenshot isn't as easily readable by AI. And AI is, you mentioned some of my other presentations, is notoriously lazy. So it
Mhm.
wants the answer, it wants it right away. This is another reason why the structure of proof worth is the way it is. So there are a variety of strategies that you can use, but I think some of the easiest and simplest things that you can think about is, when did I give value to my member? And then how do I systematize putting in the proof worth link right at that point?
Mhm.
So this could be after a coaching call. This could be after a course completion. This could be, there's a variety of places where you're giving value. And also, if you don't know the answers to these questions, that in and of itself is also valuable, because now you have signal instead of noise of what you need to work on. So, again, I love these games where there's just like all these opportunities to win. But some of the great strategies that I've seen is that people are putting it on their about pages as their links when they have the pro plan. Very valuable for helping people actually convert. And people are going in and also putting it as a verified reviews by their members, because every review that goes on Proofworth, by the way, is read by me and my team, which is me and my wife and my mom. We're a family operation right now. But it's always checked, right? Um, some people try to play the game, they try to manipulate it. I had one guy that recently submitted a great review with a picture that looked kind of decent, and when went and looked at the picture, there was actually quite vulgar.
Oh.
Um, and it was a positive review, so that would normally be something that kind of went through, but you
Mhm.
go and expand the picture and I'm like, "Whoa, that's no, that's not going up there."
Yeah.
So that's another thing that's important for us, is just maintaining that level of trust, right?
Mhm.
If somebody goes and uploads something graphic onto the platform, what does that say about us? So
Right.
we want to make sure that every community owner that comes here has opportunities for this. But really, there's so much power in just putting it in as many places as you can.
And this
Another,
is, and this is just, a plug for your community, especially if you're going to start a Prove Worth, account. These kind of strategies are all within your community and the classroom. Is that correct?
yeah, absolutely, yep,
Okay.
everything's totally accessible and totally free.
Awesome.
And
So like that link thing with the 5 stars, because obviously
yep,
that immediately grabs people's attention. So is that then you put that in as what people see, and then they click on it to go to Proveworth? Is that how that works, or am I missing
correct.
something there? Okay.
Nope, that's exactly right.
Okay.
And what also other people have been doing as well is that these links go to the profile page. But
Mhm.
then other people will submit or share either in a classroom at a moment of transformation. Our friend Henry, the crust and crumb guy that has the most reviews on the platform right now, has got like coming up on 50, I think. Um, he has every Saturday a bake along. And at
Hmm.
the end of every bake along, he said, "If you enjoyed this and got value from it, go leave a review." And it
Mm.
links automatically. It's an email follow up for all the people that registered for the school. It automatically sends a review request link. So that link goes specifically to the page where if somebody comes in here, right? Um, it automatically goes to this one.
Oh, wow.
So it just sends them straight there, right? And, by the way, you go and review, and it's 2 steps. It's very simple, very straightforward. That's another thing that I need to do a better job of also, is showing people. And then when they click submit review, that goes to a pending queue, and there's a whole 'nother follow-up page where people could submit more information, including things like, "Do you like this community? Do you like the people?" Right? All those other factors as well.
And I like the
So
thing that you talk and I'm sorry,
go ahead.
did you have another point to make or?
I've always got more
Oh.
points to make. It's you're
So,
good.
one of the things I like that I think you said this is coming up with this summer is the fact that not only can they leave their own review, but you're prompting them with certain questions that are specific. Like, is this community owner, accessible? Or are they active? Or is the interaction between the people and being able to give rankings for those individual categories? I think that's great too, because then when people can answer those questions on those different parts of the experience within the community, then when it comes time to leave their video review, it's like, okay, what did I just answer? And then they can kind of assimilate the rankings they gave into their review on the community, and that makes it easier for them as well. I think that's
100%.
that's really great what you've got coming up on that. And so the other thing, I know this is always one of the big things with any piece of software. Is it primarily PC based right now, or is the functionality as expansive on mobile as it is on PC at this point?
That's a great question. So, actually, a majority of our users are on mobile. I am
Mhm,
working on a mobile app. I still have to get my account approved by Apple. I've been waiting on that, but I've gotten through the first 2 phases. The next phase is just, going through their whole situation there. But an app is definitely on the line. The whole thing is operational on the mobile browsers. But currently 63% of the people who use Proveworth, which is averaging between 50 to 80 people a day, that come to the website and utilize it, are on mobile. So everything is fully functional on mobile. Most people actually use it on Android, Chrome mobile, as well. So it's fully functional there. And I have multiple people who utilize the product and they've never been on the desktop website at all.
mm,
They don't. They just do everything on. This is another crazy thing. All of their school is mobile. They do everything on their phone camera,
mm,
and all of their proof worth is mobile. So they
wow.
literally run the entire business. For either they could go with like the $9 plan,
Mhm,
as well as the our $29 plan. But one thing that you mentioned that I think is also important is those prompts that are in the video feature that we are working on. Those already exist
mm,
inside of the platform on text. So you see here where
okay,
it says excellent experience.
mhm,
Let's say right here they click 3 stars.
mm.
It means there's some room to grow, right? Now it says average experience. And do you wish to resolve this with the community owner?
Oh,
Let's say they
okay.
give a 1 star and it's a poor experience, right? They will be prompted with a pre-filled out form
Wow.
that says, "Hey, here's the information that I have. I rated it this way," and they could go and change this to whatever they want.
Mhm,
But this will then send a message, and this is another thing. Like I've just I gotta do more promotion about this stuff. But it says, "Here's what I felt could have been done better. Here's how things could have improved. Here's what I needed, but I didn't get." Right? They could choose. They could add all of these or choose none of these,
that's
um,
fantastic.
and do that even before they send a review. Again,
Mm,
because a community, and this is what's happened, by the way. I'm learning from natural experiences. A lot of the people that are getting negative reviews or less than positive reviews on the platform, they take that quite personally. They really want to try to resolve that. And it's, prove worth. We do as much as we can to provide a safe place for people to be able to leave that feedback because that's important. But what ends up happening, at least a few times now, is that when people say, "Hey," they actually go and publicly kind of say, hat in hand, "I got this review. I don't know who this is necessarily from," because sometimes if somebody leaves a negative review, as long as I can verify that they have purchased, they're a part of that community, they're active in that community, we do let people leave anonymous feedback. But only if they get verified by us and by humans. So they can't leave anonymous feedback that way unless they go through this process. Um, but they go hat in hand and say, "Hey, I got this feedback and I'd love to resolve this." They go and fix it. And then those people go and edit those reviews, like we talked about with James, the differently named person from my experience way back in the day. So I'm a student of the game, always trying to learn and make this stuff happen. But yeah, there's a bunch of different ways that people are going out and getting these reviews. And so, yeah, you could go basically, long story short, you go and see all the strategies that we've got here inside of this. And there's a lot of people right now who are using the platform totally for free,
Mhm.
which is completely fine. And, all the tools that we give that are designed to help you grow and get more reviews, those are also part of the free plan to make things simple and straightforward for everybody. So, yeah, that's the goal is right now. We're just trying to give as much value as we can and help people out as much as we can. There's our mutual friends over in the synthesizer group talk a lot about beautiful money and how it's important to really make money from something that you're passionate about, that you care about, or just in a way that you care about. And that's really the dream is that we can help you do that and also do that on our own.
Awesome. So, one final, we'll give you a little bit of plug. Go back to your about page if you wouldn't mind, so we can show people where to sign up with you guys and what it looks like whenever you see it. It's right there, and you'll just get join group. Oh, I had one question, and hopefully this is something that you can answer without too much trouble. Do people have to actually have an account on Proveworth to leave a review, or can they leave reviews as long as they can be verified without having that? Or is this something where they have to at least have some sort of sign on with Proveworth to leave reviews?
Yeah, absolutely. So every review requires somebody to be authenticated.
Mhm,
So we do not allow reviews from basically like there's kind of leaked and spam protection. So that's another factor is we actually have partnered up with some data providers for emails that have potentially been compromised.
mhm,
So we can actually see if somebody that is authenticated is logging in with an email that could potentially be compromised.
mhm,
And so we go through extra measures to reach out to that person and confirm that they are legitimate. We have actual a few pending reviews right now where we're going through the authentication process. Some of them good, some of them bad, but even the good ones, if there's suspect, then we go through extra steps to verify that that is indeed that person, and check with those people as well. So we always keep the safety of the user, whether that's a community builder or a reviewer, as primary, so we never expose those people to each other unless they opt into that sort of thing. But no, people cannot leave reviews. They could go through the review process, but they can't actually submit it unless they sign up and authenticate. And that's just to protect everybody involved from making sure that the reviews are legitimate, but also making sure because we've had this happen. This unfortunately has happened where community owners try to go and leave reviews for themselves using multiple accounts,
mhm.
which I won't spoil the secret sauce there, but we have methods to detect that too. So.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, Matt, I don't want to take any more of your Saturday, but I appreciate this. I think this is something that will really help people because uh, like you said, at this point, school doesn't really have review capabilities other than sharing screenshots of either third-party reviews or having or having the comments that they're able to screenshot inside of their community or links to different posts inside their community where they're sharing things like that. But I think that what you're doing here is such a huge thing for people. Um, Yeah,
Yep,
those are the kind of things that, people can get inside of their communities. But I think, like you said, the prove worth thing is pretty, just having the ability to get outside of school and see that, people out in the real world are able to, authenticate their experience inside of school is pretty cool. So,
absolutely, absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity. It was a great conversation. I think a good thing to just point out here, just for everybody
yeah.
to realize, and I'm not affiliated with VoiceOver School. I'd love to get them on Proveworth, but you'll see here things like this, which are obviously powerful. I mean, Jesse's doing a great job, right? Top 5% earner, top 1% community builder. Even also employed the for you, not for you strategy as
Mhm.
well, which I think is interesting. But this right here, um, as powerful as this is for your landing page, which again, I'm not saying don't do this. I think this is a great thing for you to be able to do. But I would just encourage you to go and actually test this for yourself. Don't let me just tell you this, but go to your favorite AI tool, ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, whatever it is, and ask it, what do you see on this page? Like, spit it back out to me. And you will learn that it can easily read this information. And even though it can see this information, at least in my tests and also the tests of many other experienced marketers, this kind of information does not get captured and cataloged.
Mm.
And what else would you want to have the internet blast more than my
Right,
students are winning? you know,
right,
uh,
right.
you know, I help people get 20K a month in this voiceover program, right? All
Yeah.
this other stuff, I can't even read this. Like, it's so
Yeah,
small.
and that was gonna be my point, especially if they're doing it on mobile, they can't see it, and I see so many communities that are not optimized for the mobile experience, but this one, really, when you think about it, because it's so much volume of text on one image, it's not even optimized for PC,
Yep.
and then you throw that on top of it, what you just said is that AI can't determine all of that text inside of an image, then yeah, it's a lost opportunity that ProveWorth helps them obviously take advantage of. So
Yep, yep, exactly. And I do hope, I legitimately hope that School, Luma, Circle, Mighty Networks, all these platforms, I do hope that they allow for people to leave reviews natively in the platform. Meetup.com, at least as of my last test, they actually have reviews for the meetups, which I thought was great. You can't look at those reviews unless you log in, which I
wow,
thought was, yeah, I
wow,
thought that was a little weird. Um, I thought that was a pretty strange, thing to do, because you would ideally want that information to be, propagated all over the internet.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, what ends up happening here is that even if School and all these platforms do this one day, um, those are all going to be native reviews. And one of I think the biggest assets that you can have is when you have an unbiased third party that's what the power of a testimonial can give you versus something like a review. Like, you want to have both, but you really want to have reviews that are objective, third party, and outside the control mechanism of the community builder. Because, of course, they're going to put their best foot forward here.
Right,
But there are some people out there, maybe, like, unfortunately, that will put their best foot forward, but behind the scenes are not actually going to be giving great value to their students or their members or their communities. Right. So there are other people that are just, we operate in
or
a
they're
world.
or they're blind to the experience so much, because they got those couple of reviews that kind of weighted in their mind, and they don't know all the opportunities for improvement that even bad reviews on ProveWorth give them. Because I'm kind of like you, if because that's the first thing I ask somebody when they leave my community. Hey, are you just paring down, or were we missing something inside of here based off the about page and all of that stuff that you expected to find and you didn't? Because that tells me, number one, I either need to refine my messaging so it's more clear what they're getting and what they're not, or I have a blind spot about a need inside the community that I'm not fulfilling. And I think that's, a
And that's
review
so
over
valuable.
a testimonial is the only way you can make that happen.
Exactly, exactly. And yeah, you hit on it, and it's just so important. But wouldn't you rather know if you've got a debilitating business issue that is
Mhm.
causing you problems behind the scenes, Yeah, it
100%.
sucks to learn, but, like, if you
Yeah.
know, you could hopefully fix it.
Right, yeah, that's
Uh,
the gap. You have to address the gap, and,
yeah,
if you
and
don't
we've all got them.
yeah, oh, 100%, 100% we all do. But, Matt, I really appreciate the time.
Of course,
I think people are really, gonna, get some value out of this, and it's gonna help them be seen. And I think more and more in the future, because 'cause you've talked about it, less and less will we necessarily go to Google, but the more proficient AI becomes at, "Hey, not only is this a good place to go, but eventually it's going to get to the point where they'll just take us right to, those websites or those communities. And the more input out there is of reviews and public feedback on those things, it's going to heighten your credibility and your trustworthiness, out in the outside of school.
100%.
And so I think what you're building here is got like this it's got a long-term view of where we're headed with search on the internet. So I'm really excited to be an early partner with you on this because I think this is definitely something that will grow as school just, continues to explode over these next 18 to 24 months. So
I love it. Well, it's a privilege to be a part of it, Chuck, and really, I appreciate you taking the time to go through this. Hopefully, you could tell I'm having a blast. I'm loving it. So, thank you for giving me the opportunity.
you're welcome. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Alrighty.